Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Florida Man, Season 1, Episode 6. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. The penultimate episode. Holy crap. Man, when it rains, it pours, and of course, everything has been going wrong every step of the way in this show, so of course, it's going to go even worse. So, we pick up with the deli and, Moss of it all. We find out some interesting info. First and foremost, Moss figured it out pretty early. Well, at least, we don't know how far in the relationship, because we don't even know how long they were together. But he figured out pretty quickly. It took a little while before he put it together. Like, hey, last name. You got the same last name as the man I, threw off a roof. And it's like, yes. Obviously, Deli didn't figure it out until, like super recently. Like, once again, before her plan to run away to Florida and everything and go for the gold. That was all inspired by her finding out. And it is kind of what I thought. So, I kept going back and forth. It's like, would you really stay with someone that you know, like, their dad potentially killed your dad? It's like, yes, it's a different thing when you find out he's the one that actually did it, but you're like, right, his dad is his dad, he's not his dad. Like, yeah, he might be mixed up in this crime ball stuff, but he didn't kill my dad, so it's a little bit different, so it was an easier pill to swallow. So I think she did legitimately fall for him, because she thought, like, hey, you are kind of like a really good guy and everything, but then it's like, oh no, you're actually a terrible person because you actually the one that killed my dad. I should have pulled the trigger when you went out of the opportunity. And I love that Mike wanted to try and go in there because, he's talking to Clara about, like, hey, I need a gun. And it's like, we don't have any guns here. It's like, actually, we do. And he's like, we do? And she's got guns and money behind, like, a painting or whatever. He's like, and Vinny's like, you're like Scarface. And and it was once again, a little bits of information we're finding out about them, what their whole thing is. I think, based on what they were saying, they already worked at this motel, but then the couple just abandoned it. The family who owned it just abandoned it and went back to Ohio. So they got rid of all the tape that said this place was closed down, and they basically took over and ran it, even though they're not running it legitimately because of immigration, they cannot own this because they're not here legally. So that's also why later on they don't want to call the police, because the same reason why they don't want to take Benny to the hospital, because it would, immigration gets called, like their status gets checked. So I also love that, like, the gun that she handed Mike was a big gun. I was like, Jesus, that handgun is massive. But before he could go in there to help out with because I was about to say, like, oh man, he's going to hear this whole deli conversation, but he does, just not the way I thought he would. He heard it because Iris is recording everything and ended up playing everything. So now Iris is saying, like, hey, no, Deli's like, okay, we're in this together. I'm manipulating Mike, which even he's trying to give her the benefit of the doubt and even saying, like, right, she's under duress, she's got a gun pointed at her, she'll say whatever. And that's the thing of, like, we don't know how true it is. She's kind of made it clear and showcased that she's willing to kind of manipulate and use anyone to get what she wants. It's like, right, she could have killed Moss, but she didn't. She stole from him because she also had her insurance policy with the flash drive, but she doesn't have it anymore. Clara actually has it. But no, like, neither Clara nor Mike knows about. I'm mixing up names. I'm sorry, I do that all the time. Neither does Deli nor Mike knows about Clara having the flash drive. So that's kind of her insurance policy, and what that storyline ended up turning into, we'll have to wait and see. But this episode just culminates in just so many lies, because it's one thing stacked on top of each other. Once again, who knew, my favorite thing of who knew what when, and then it becomes the thing of, like, well, who's lying now? Got to keep our lies straight, because if we don't, yeah, Moss is a little too trigger happy. So there's a little bit of you being like, yes, maybe Dell is lying because she does care about Mike, because she did say, like, hey, I don't want to go, I want to run away with you. Maybe there was some validity to that, but they've been through so much now. It's like, you've sacrificed so much, you've been through so much to get that gold. I'm not leaving empty-handed. So, and once again, she tried to go to Sonny behind Mike's back, but then kind of backtrapped in the moment she found out Mike knew where the gold was. So she also involved Jason, the ambulance driver, in all of this, or manipulations of faking her death. So it's like, it's the story of scumbags. Not only, like, even the more honest characters like Iris, you're like, yeah, but she's skirting the line in order, because she wants to help Mike, so she's skirting the line in the process, but she also wants to take down Moss, which is even a point that Mike was like, yeah, you can't even use any of this evidence because you bugged a civilian. Once again, you have to at least put the paperwork in to have something like that happen, because once again, she doesn't have the authorization because she's in Florida instead of Philly, so nothing's going right here. And it's even to the point that even later on when Mike is talking to Sonny, even Sonny's like, which side of the fence is Deli going to fall on when it comes to all this? And it's like, no, we'll just have to watch and see, because it is a thing of like, yeah, she wants to work with you guys because she wants to get the gold, but you guys can also be her means of getting rid of Moss, because she doesn't want him, because it's like, yeah, the moment they get the gold, Moss could still kill her. He loves her, but it might be like, yeah, I got this gold and you already broke my heart once, I'm never going to forgive you type of thing. So it's hard to say. For one, they've seen the truck, but no one knows for sure if the gold is even in there. I mean, it's based on what Gil said, but it always goes back to what Mike said. Gamblers lie. So he could have found one coin and then said like, hey, I got all this. So either they are going to, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but either they're going to walk away with the gold, like walk away and find out the gold was a lie, like Gil never found it, or it is going to get covered up and no one's going to walk away with it. That all of this was for absolutely nothing. I mean, there might be some like deaths. Not some, there's definitely going to be deaths, maybe some arrests that are involved that might be a silver lining to all of this. Not even silver lining, because some of those deaths are very unfortunate, but it's like, yeah, it's hard to say how this will all play out. And oh God, I even love that Moss tried to like, obviously, before Iris, obviously, Mike already knew Moss was there, but now it's like, okay, when I talked to Deli, I told her like, hey, let's go to that place called Sunny, so pretending like they don't know where it is, make it seem like it's neutral ground when it's actually home it's the home advantage. And but obviously Deacon showing up kind of like completely and utterly screwed that up. You're like, oh, Deacon is like, shut your mouth, Deacon, shut up, stop talking, Deacon. It's like, why would you bring up all this personal information in front? But I guess it's like, yeah, Deacon's just lovable kind of idiot. So it's just like, oh, I know you don't know what you're doing, but God, you were so screwing this up, Deacon. Because of course he will, because everything that can go wrong will in fact go wrong, as plenty of TV shows show us time and time again. And this show has shown us time and time again. I also love Caitlin, Fox, and Andy linking up. But that was a crossover. I didn't know where the Caitlin stuff was going to go when she was looking more into, the more that she was going to look into Mike. But for them to kind of link up in that way. And I love they created this giant theory, because all the pieces are there to the puzzle. Obviously, they're missing some pieces, so they end up connecting threads that don't fully connect. So they're trying to say that basically because of the shady stuff that Sonny's into, plus the ambulance, they're putting it together being like, oh my God, that's how you transport drugs, is using something big like an ambulance that can move down the street and no one would know. And it's like, oh, using the waterways that can go all the way up to Massachusetts or whatever. So it's like, hey, this is how they're getting the drugs involved. But then also later on, Andy's like, yeah, but Mike doesn't live here. He lives in Philadelphia. So they were making certain connections and they weren't being able to kind of fully piece it together. But I love that Caitlin got to the point that she was like, no, who cares if it doesn't really like fully work? We'll run it. And so basically she has, because I remember the piece of the puzzle, they were trying to say like, because try to take it as far as saying like the government was involved in like some giant cartel like drug business. But it's like, yeah, but Mike doesn't actually work for transportation, so that actually removes that element, like they were spitballing their theories. But Caitlin's like, and I think it's also supposed to be kind of a little bit of a joke of fake news. It's like, because the moment she was like, because she was so excited because she's thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be my opportunity. I didn't talk about it, but a couple episodes ago, one of her, like, she was asking someone, could she be kind of like get recommended a job or something, or work her way up as a journalist, but it's like, you haven't actually done any investigative journalism. And the moment she starts spitballing all this, I'm like, Caitlin, this is going to blow up in your face so hard. But she went it, and once again, that's supposed to be like the fake news era of like, you didn't do your due diligence, and she didn't. She knows she wasn't doing her due diligence. It's like, I'm gonna put it out there, and it's going to be the biggest story of my career, which I love how that ties into Catcher's Sheriff Catcher's storyline, which second to last episode, I decided to finally look up the character's name, because his name doesn't come up, because even looking up the character's name, he's just known by his last name, because we don't actually know his character's first name, I guess. Either way, I love that, like, right, we're catching up with him. He tried to steal a car. The moment he brought it back, my immediate thought was, oh my God, she hadn't finished pumping the gas yet. Like, I thought maybe she went in to get something else and was going to come back to pump the gas. Like, I mean, it's like, you could pay for the gas beforehand, but I thought that's what she was doing. And then it turns out he put all that stuff back. I was like, what? Oh, she's got a kid in there. Cool. You already broke out of prison. You already arrested, broke out of prison. Last thing you want to do is add kidnapping a child onto that. He's like, I'm so sorry, and left. The mom potentially none the wiser. I was like, wow. And I also love that he's sneaking around and he sees the picture of Mike on the news from Caitlin, the sketch that Andy has of him. And it has his gun, and he recognizes it. It's like, hey, that's my gun. So he knows Mike had his gun, which Mike no longer has the gun, because I'm like, where is the gun? It has to still be with, the last time I remember us seeing the gun was when Dutch came to visit Delhi. She had the gun then, but so apparently she never put it back, so maybe it's, oh yeah, I'm so stupid. It's obviously in her purse, because I forgot we saw in her purse at one point in time when she was like scrounging through it to find the wire that Iris had put on her. And I was like, oh right, I completely forgot they did showcase that. I think that's our first time seeing the gun post that. So I was like, oh yeah, where is the gun? It's like, right. It was it was only a few seconds on screen, but it's like, yeah, it's in her pocketbook. I was like, oh, of course. So she does have a way of dealing with Moss on her own that none of them know, because no one else knows she has the gun on. I didn't even talk about it, but I mean, I talked about everything kind of going wrong, but this is like kind of all the plot threads fully coming together, with the exceptions of like the Catcher quite hasn't, like Sheriff Catcher's like story hasn't fully integrated yet, but it will fully connect most likely in the series finale, because he knows Mike had his gun, and that's going to lead. But like every other storyline has kind of connected. Everything with Andy, which he did find out about Dutch's death, finding out about him being from he's the one that blew up in the toilet. Now knowing that, because he was also like the connective thread for being the connect between the Philadelphia stuff and the Florida stuff, is kind of what Andy and Caitlin's theories kind of were in that regard. Then there was the really, really awkward dinner, which I thought was kind of interesting. Which I love that I saw in the, obviously I love the like in Res Media like opening of like, yeah, 8 hours earlier. I thought it was interesting that Tyler wasn't there, but she was babysitting, and I was like, wait, isn't that the couple she was listening into on the police scanner radio? I was like, that was them, isn't it? I was like, what? I know did she go over there because she knew the drama that was going on? I really didn't fully comprehend the whole Tyler thing of like what she got out of that like radio conversations last episode. Like she saw the drama and heard all the drama, but maybe it's because she kind of feels like, right, it's a family that's working through their BS, whereas like her family isn't. Like she sees it kind of floating near the surface, like, oh, it's all there beneath the surface, but no one's really no one's really saying anything, which obviously that's interesting to say that considering this episode and everything with Patsy, but we'll get to that in a second. But like I said, I don't know whether it's just because of all the stuff that the family was going through and maybe she wanted to help them out because she could hear how stressed they were and, you know, but they were trying to make things through. So maybe she legitimately did want to help. So I was wondering whether or not that was going to bring her and her mom together, which once again, because of this episode, that's not going to be the case. So, but yeah, like everything's happening. Patsy's getting stressed out because she did pull the trigger on the situation. She did kill Jason. So there's that. 2, she's sitting here knowing like, hey, there's the dead girl that you were supposed to help make, that you were helping out, right? Oh, here's the guy that wants to try and kill you, Moss. And it's like, cool. And now he knows where I live and you brought this all to my family. And obviously Mike feels guilty about it and he wants to deal with all this. He promises that he's going to deal with it. But it's like his conversation with Moss made him want to pull the trigger on Moss, because Moss is like, oh, I know you were sleeping with her, because how could you not? Like, you probably did try to fight it, but how long did it take? A minute, 2 minutes before you kind of gave in? And ended up saying like, right, just make sure you don't fall in love with her, because she's very good at making you feel like she needs you until she doesn't, which is kind of representative of their relationship and stuff. Obviously, it comes with its own little snafu and complications. But he had said, like, right, you think you're a good guy. And he's like, good guys. He's like, I've met plenty of good guys. And it's just like, I thought he was going to say basically like, when it's all said and done, I've met good guys. You aren't a good guy. I thought that's kind of the lane he was going. But it's like, no, when it's all said and done, they don't even have a leg to stand on. And it's kind of like threatening. And it's like, right, Moss has all the reason to want you dead. So, but now Mike is even more motivated. Like, all right, you threaten my family and all of this. So I want you dead. In fact, I want to be the one to do it. Oh, Buzz and Ray are going to be there? Yeah, they can watch me put a bullet and kill Moss. I want him dead. Because even Sonny's like, yeah, I want to make sure that we get that gold, and I want to make sure he's not on this earth by the time we're getting that gold. So, awkward dinner. Deacon having no idea what's going on because Patsy's filled into, some degree about everything. So, Deacon's asking Moss about all this stuff, and everyone's lying, trying to focus on the corn, and Patsy just finally snaps and goes off and reveals what I thought. After, like I said, because of last episode, I was like, Patsy definitely has to know. I was like, that's why she's so adamant about helping Mike, because she know, and it's a little more expansive than what I was getting at, but I figured she knew the truth about her mom. And the effed up thing is, she was like, oh, do you think I wouldn't know about how mom really died? It wasn't too long before some kid got in front of the entire class and told everyone how mom really died. But I never wanted to talk to any one of you about it because I saw that neither one of you wanted to talk about it. So we all kept it bottled up. And so they spent all these years not talking about it because they didn't want to talk about it. But in their own right, they also didn't want to talk about it because they thought they were protecting Patsy from them. But like, no, they've each, I guess you could make the argument that Sonny and Mike were so caught up in their own bullshit with it. I mean, not trying to invalidate their complicated feelings about the whole thing. They were so caught up in their own feelings about it and the animosity that, Mike had towards Sonny, which complicated their relationship. They were so focused on that. They didn't see like Patsy was kind of dealing with it in her own right because they didn't know. Like, she's been bottling this all up. And so because Mike left at such a young age, and it's like, you left me here alone, Michael, with a heartbroken dad who wanted to not need me. He wanted me not to need him. So it's like, right, he wanted me to kind of be independent because he wasn't really reliable after losing their mom. It's just, I guess that's when he probably really went down his crime route. Maybe it was like after losing his wife. So once again, it impacted all of them. And so Patsy's been so desperate to keep her family together, hoping like if she ever said anything, it'd be the last thing that would kind of break their family apart. But it's like, yeah, our family's been in shambles regardless, because it's been her all along trying to keep them together. So she knows about who Moss really is and what he's trying to do. And it's also like, yeah, I killed that guy for you, which even Mike's like, wait, what? And he talks to Sonny about it. It's like, I wanted her to make sure the guy died, like as in they pull him off the ventilator and stuff like that, which they did, but he still survived. And if she was able to get in contact with Mike would have been like, no, don't do it. Because I don't think he would have let his sister become a murderer. He probably would have it's another thing being like, hey, he's going to like be in this state forever. Like there's no recovering for him unless it is an absolute miracle. So yeah, like convince the mom to put him on, or like, once again, he should have never put her in that position in the first place. That first and foremost, but her having to kill him herself is a lot worse than when it's like, just pulling the plug on him essentially. And, because he's supposed to be basically brain dead, which he kind of was, and he was still only going to be going for maybe a couple more days, but who knows if he might have potentially had a miraculous recovery or not. So, but that makes Mike feel even more guilty of like, right, my sister had to do that. She also revealed that she had sex with some dude in a canoe in North Carolina. Tyler heard at least that part of it. So it's like, cool. That adds more animosity to their relationship. So that's not going to get any better. So, and Patsy might have just blown up her marriage. So like everything went wrong. Like, because that's the sad thing too. You can tell Mike's got that more guilt about it too. That, hey, I didn't just ruin, like, it's bad enough that my life is a mess, a hot mess. Me coming back home led to all of this. It's like, but it's like you weren't really in a position to turn Moss down, but you could have. But it all comes down to your choices have led to all of this. Your decisions have led to all of this. Deciding to stick it out with Deli when it comes to this plan, not leaving when she like. There were so many outs. But at the same time, you are a gambler. There's not until the very end will you will never admit defeat. Never. It's just like you're waiting on that one. Once again, that your luck to turn around. All it takes is one more game to turn your entire luck around. So like he was never going to back down. It's ingrained in him to not. So even when there being multiple outs, he was already too deep, and you have to put a multiplier on how deep he was into all of this because of the gambling addiction. It just adds multipliers of like, so it'd be even that much harder for him to dig himself out. Oh, we had Iris showing up at, well, first and foremost, I love that she ended up tracking the device because Mike threw it in the back of a truck, led her to Taco Bell, which I do love that you see later on. She did, but she had no choice. She was in line, and it's like, right, she couldn't back up or get out of the line. So it's like, all right, I'll order myself something. It'll help calm me down from being super pissed at Mike for bailing, like throwing me to the wolves by like not throwing me to the wolves, but kind of leaving me high and dry by leading me on a goose chase. Speaking of Iris, I'm also curious if, I mean, with everyone around them, sure, Mike had extra reason to be like, yo, Patsy, stop. But I wonder, did he also do that because I would assume that he's still recording all that stuff because his plan was to still get Iris to recording. So that's probably also him being like, Patsy, hush, stop admitting to stuff that you did because he can't really outwardly say like, hey, I'm bugged right now. I kind of expected him to, but it's like, no, you can't do that because that would just make Moss immediately pop off on all of you. So either way, the guy that works at the dock saw Ray and Buzz show up. Iris showed up. They don't recognize, like, I don't know if it's a thing of they know Iris by name, but they didn't know what she looks like, or it's a thing of, yes, it's dark, so they can't really make her out, and, you know, turns into a shootout. Buzz is okay. Both Iris and Ray got hit. I don't know if either, I hope and pray that Iris makes out of this okay, and I think she will. I don't know if Ray will though, so that just turned into a clusterfuck of a situation. Then on the way, the moment Mike was on his way, I thought when the cops are pulling him over, I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna end up being end up Andy, isn't it? But it's like, no, it's Sonny. Sonny had called in a tip because he didn't want his son to destroy his life. Because I think for him, it's like, I've tried my best, and I haven't always been the best father, so let me do this. I don't want you to have to live with, like, having to, like, I know you want to pull the trigger, but Mike hasn't killed anyone. So it's like, he doesn't want his son to have to live with that, despite Moss being the bastard that would deserve it, and does deserve it. So I get the feeling like, I'll probably most likely end up being, Deli who ends up killing him. It's like, right, she couldn't pull the trigger before, but maybe she can now, and it makes perfect sense considering, like, once again, she's got the gun on her, but who knows how this whole shithole is going to turn out, especially because, once again, Mike's getting brought in, and I'm sure that's going to lead to some conversations between him and Andy, especially with everything that Caitlin's, like, running about him, and I'm assuming that's going to tie in the whole deputy catcher of it all, because he's deputy sheriff, or is it sheriff deputy? Whatever the case may be, catcher's role in all this. So, like I said, I've thrown out my final theories about what could end up happening. Like, either there's not going to be any gold in that truck, or things are going to go so because Gil was lying just to save his own teeth, which I believe might be the most likely possibility, because that running theme of gamblers are notorious liars. They'll say whatever they need to say. I mean, it's a theme in this episode of people saying whatever they need to say just to survive and just to get what they want. So we see that on the front with Mike. We've seen that with Deli in particular. But other characters have kind of done that same thing as well, because Iris has kind of lied to kind of get what she needs. Same thing for Benji and Clara. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the finale, the series finale. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.